Welcome to this episode with Business with Papa. I'm David Bland. As always, I want to encourage you to look at episode 1, which talks about where I've come from, what I've been through, what I've accomplished. Tells you a little bit about my background so that you can have a sense of whether I have value to add to your experience. Lots of people on the internet saying lots of things. Some of it's true, some of it's not true. Some of it is well-intentioned, but inexperienced, or experienced, but mostly with failures. And they've read about it in a book, and they found this is a possible new way to get rich. So make sure the people you're talking to and listening to have something of value, of real experience to add to your experience so that you can be successful. So today, we're actually going to talk about your most important asset. I don't really care what it is you sell. It doesn't matter, because no matter how good your service or product concepts might be, at the end of the day, it's delivered by people. Okay? And it's those people that your clients are people, are going to have some sort of relationship with. And so it's important that your staff, your employees, your associates, whatever you want to call them to make it all feel good, it's important that they are good. And it's important that you recognize that they are key to your success. So let's talk about that. All right. I hate writing stuff. I'll just tell you that. Okay. In spite of my history and the industries in which I've worked, I just despise having to write stuff down. Okay. That said, there are lots, sadly, of things that need to be written down. Okay. The spoken word is easily forgotten. The written word, while maybe not totally clear, it's easily referred to. Okay. And by writing these things down, you, or whoever you assign them to, are forced to truly think through what is it that we're asking, what is it that you need to know, and what is it that we will expect of you. That way, everybody in the game is playing with the same deck of cards. So, in spite of my personal tendencies, I can tell you, you need to write down whatever talent positions you're trying to fill. What is the qualification? What is the function? What are the authorities? What are the expectations for that position? That helps focus your search, focus your staff. So, how do you go about finding employees? Okay, so let me give you the closing answer first. It's horrible. Okay? It is one of the hardest things you'll do. Okay? And I'm not talking about stellar employees. I'm just talking about finding staff that are qualified. The market is always hard. Okay? I actually had a conversation with my wife recently that doing business is a really hard thing, and maybe I shouldn't be doing it anymore. And I'm not, by the way, but I think about it all the time. And I convinced myself I shouldn't start something new. One, I'm not 20 anymore, but I'm not dead either. But I tell myself, well, the market's changed. I don't have to deal with this. And the real truth is, I watched my grandparents and parents run businesses. It was murder on them. It's murder now when I ran one. And the people I talk to now, it's murder. So it's worth every bit of it, by the way. So, excuse me. So what I want to tell you is it's hard to find staff no matter what you do. But in order of preference, I'm going to try to make some recommendations to you. Okay? So first, and the best way to hire staff, is to hire people that you know can perform. You personally know they can perform. Now, doesn't mean they're going to work out. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it does present the highest probability that you will get what you thought you bought. That will run out quickly. So what's next? Well, you might imagine, hire people that people you know and trust know. Now, that's a bigger population, assuming that they aren't trying to hire the same people, okay, so that you can actually get some help from folks. So if someone you know and trust and believe in says, Francisco is a good guy, well, that's a recommendation you might be able to trust. And so maybe you'll get yourself a good employee. So second level is hire the people that come recommended from people you know. Now, don't forget, where did I start? Write a position description. So both you know what you're looking for and they know what you expect. So when you run out of that, or you can't fill a position through one of those two means, what's next? There's a plethora of companies and entities and websites who will guarantee you they will provide you nothing but the top-notch quality employee that you've been looking for. So let me start with, that's a load of crap. I don't care who it is that's telling you that. It's all a lie. They are not providing you anything except access to a database of a bunch of potential people that they don't know from Adam or Sally or anyone else. And they have no idea whether the resume is a complete lie, whether the application is a complete lie, or whether there's any skill set whatsoever involved. Okay, so it doesn't mean you don't use them. It does mean you don't believe a word out of their mouth. Okay, critical thinking, you hear that from me a lot. You need to be a critical thinker. These people are providing you a service, meaning access to individuals neither you nor your friends know who might be good and qualified for the job that you're looking to fill. But make no mistake, everything else they say is a total lie. That is not what they're doing. They're looking to get you to subscribe and pay a fee to access a data bank of people they know nothing about. So, and you need to, because, right, you're growing, so you need the help. So, third choice is to use these various mechanisms, search companies, search databases, search, I'm not going to name any names because I'm not looking to advocate to any of them. I think, frankly, most of them are all the same. And in many cases, they're providing you the same resumes. I will tell you this, though. There are some differences, okay? There are people in the marketplace that are looking for permanent jobs. They want to hire on and have a career. They want to be able to advance through management. There are also people who don't want that. And all they're looking for is either a part-time thing to keep entertained by, or they want a temporary assignment where they get to change their jobs all the time. There are different data banks that cover those different kinds of people. Be sure, depending upon what you're hiring for, and there are needs for all of that, that you're using the data bank that specializes in providing access to those kind of resumes, or those kind of data bank of people who might want a job. And cities and governments provide that kind of service too, okay? So that's the third way. And then finally, right, depending upon the style of your business, you might just have random people who walk up and ask for a job. I can tell you, years ago, I bought a security company in a town we won't talk about. The demand was high for security forces. We got so desperate to try to find non-armed, just security personnel to stand a post, that we were stopping on the side of the street to homeless people and offering them jobs. Okay, I mean, it's what it's like. If you don't know yet, you're going to know. you'll be all over the map sometimes trying to find the help. So what I call the random walk-ups, whether you're walking up to them as I just described, or they're walking up to you, okay, you know nothing about them, all right? But through one of those four mechanisms, in that order is my recommendation, you find the staff you need. Because remember what I said, that is your number one asset in your company. So it should be a strong asset. So now that you've found these people or talking to these people, what do you do? Well, you have your position description that helps you know what it is you expect of them and they'll need to do, whether it's physical task, mental task, whatever it may be. Okay, and you can talk to them about that. You can talk to them about their background, and we'll have a session later on where we talk about interview kind of questions in general that you should ask to find out what people do or do not know. I'm just trying to talk now about how you find them and how you go about them and what you should expect. Lots of people do background checks. Okay, so let me say this. If you're in a business in which your employees can represent, depending upon their background, a danger to the public, you're running a daycare as an example, you need to do background checks to find out things you can't find out by just talking to people. But if you're running a business, and I'll just use me as an example, where you're providing engineering or construction talent, my personal experience is you can pay for all the background checks. Now, set aside drug testing. You can pay for all the background checks you want. They are, in my experience, totally worthless. A little bit like resumes. I've read tens of thousands of resumes over my career in hiring people. I've hired thousands and thousands of people. But I've read, I don't even want to think about how many I've read. I've read resumes looking for talent in a particular area that the individual, who I did not know, said they had performed a task on a job I had run, and they talked about the incredible contribution they made to that job. Now, remember what I said. I didn't know this person, and I knew everybody on my jobs. And yet, I didn't know this individual. So guess what? It was all a lie. Resumes are expanded beyond the truth, just like a lot of other things. Background checks don't tell you really who you're getting. Now, if you want to pay for them, go all in. Go ahead. If you need to, because of potential criminal backgrounds that could be problematic in your industry, you definitely should do it because that's liability protection. But if you think it's going to help you pick out a good employee, I'm going to tell you it's not going to. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I hired a very senior person one time on a recommend that I did not know, but that came highly recommended from 3 different people I did know who knew this individual extremely well. It was the worst hire I ever made. Now, what's to be learned here? What am I really trying to tell you? 2 things. The first is, no matter what you have done, you will not find out if this person will fit into your firm well for 3 to 6 months. It takes that long for what I call newness to wear off, and for the individual to become who they truly are, who they can sustain. So somewhere around 3 to 6 months, you'll know if you got what you thought you wanted. And now for the second thing. And my wife, as I've mentioned, helped me in my business. And anytime somebody didn't perform right, she wanted to fire them. And believe you me, if she was wanting to fire them, I was way past the point of wanting to fire them. Okay? But they still work there. So you kind of ask yourself, why? You cannot fire everyone you want to. Remember, if you haven't seen it, you should see the session on delegation. These people are not going to perform the way you would. Okay? So you might be inclined to want to fire them because they don't. If you can't let someone go and have a strong belief that you'll replace them with someone who's better, then all you're doing is spending money, wasting time. And it's not to your advantage. So that's the second lesson. Not everyone that doesn't meet what you hoped they would be is someone you remove from the firm. Now, we're going to have a separate session on how to cope with poor performance. It's called positive discipline. Okay. But what I want you to get out of this session is this. And again, my experience, I think it's generically true. You'll have to form your own opinion. 10% of the workforce are dynamic, hard-charging, results-oriented performers. 80% of the workforce comes to work every day, mostly will do their job. They might even lead, take some initiative on their own, or they might wait and then do whatever you ask them to do within their job responsibilities. But they won't be anything other than someone who comes to work every day and performs tasks. Now, if you've done the math, we've talked about 90% of the workforce. And that's right. 10% of the workforce is destructive. I actually was helping someone on a project recently, and one of the individuals who was brought in to be a key player in that project was destructive, and it was obvious from day one. And so my answer was, I don't care how important that person thinks they are, or how key they are implied to be from the client, they need to be fired because they are not a team player and are never going to be. That last 10% are problems, cancers to your organization. They will be destructive. They will be poor performers. They will do their best to discourage that 80. You can't discourage the 10%. Okay, they are just so driven. They're not going to get swayed off the path. But some of that 80% can be influenced by those bad performers. It's that last 10%, the positive discipline program that you will learn about in other sessions, will be important to you. And by the way, the position description will be important for you to be able to deal with that individual in a way that helps your company. Okay. So that's how you go about hiring people. That's the preference to do it in. That's what I think about background checks in general and how effective they can be. And what I think about when you really find out what you really hired and which ones you keep and which ones you move out of the firm. I hope this is helpful. There'll be other sessions that'll touch on these very similar topics that you'll have access to shortly, or maybe already, depending upon when you're watching this. I hope you get the best, most important assets that your firm needs so you can be successful. Until next time, this is Papa making suggestions.